ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarod. Anirakaranamastva nirakaranam me astu. Tadatmani nirate yaupanishatsu dharmaste mai santu. Te mai santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Ityetadaksharamudgitamupasita Om Ityhyudgayate Tasyopavyakshyanam. In the Chhandogya Upanishad, now we are starting the 7th chapter at Saptamodhyaya. Says Narendra Puri in the Mangalacharanam, Namadibhyah parobhuma sarvatma karako dvayah swatmastah pratyaganandah anakshagrahyo grahakshamaha. So summarizing the subject matter of the 7th chapter, Bhuma, Bhuman, Brahman. Bhuma means that which is abundant, all-pervasive, limitless. That is Brahman. Namadibhyah paraha. So this is how the teaching is here. Namadibhyah, being from Nama, which is the grossest. Slowly the teacher takes you to subtler and subtler and the subtlest to Brahman. As Bhashyakar will explain, this is the Shakha Chandranyaya or Sthula Arundhati Nyaya would have been even good, So from the Sthula to the Sukshma, to the Sukshmatara, Sukshmatama. What is the nature of Bhuma or Brahman? Sarvatma, which is the self of all pervasive. So we will be told here, Atma Vedam Sarvam, Ahame Vedam Sarvam, etc. Akarakaha. It is not a karaka, not an accessory to an action. It's not a karta, not a karma, not a karanam. Akarta, so akaraka, that which transcends the idea of karma. Actionless. Karmani akarmayah pashet. So when the karma is being performed, the one is akarma or the actionless in presence of which the karma takes place. Advaya, it is Advaya, one without a second, non-dual. Svatmastha, Sve Mahimni Tishtati, the one that abides in its own glory, in its own self, in its own nature. Pratyagananda, Yo Vibhuma Tat Sukham, or there is Ananda or happiness. Pratyagananda, happiness that is one's own self. Anakshagrahya. So, yatra nanyat pashyati, nanyat shranoti, nanyat vijanati. Where one does not see anything, does not hear anything, does not know anything. So that is anakshagrahya, that which cannot be grasped or perceived or objectified by the sense organs of the mind. Grahakshamaha, but that which illumines all the perceptions. So, that is Bhuma. Doesn't even say that this is simply Tattva Anusmaranam, remembering simply the Tattva of the truth. That is the nature of Mangalacharam here. So, Tattva Anusandhanam we can say, thus bringing in mind, meditating upon the Tattva of the nature of the truth. Now says Anandagiri, Shashta Saptamayoho Adhyayoho Sambandham Vaktu Kamaha Shashte Vrittam Kirtayati. Shashta Saptam Adhyayoho Sambandham Vaktu Kamaha. So Bhashyakara, who is Vaktu Kamaha, desires of stating the Sambandha, the Sangati, the connection, the relation between Shashta Saptamayoho Adhyayoho, desirous of stating the connection, the relationship between the 6th and the 7th chapter. 6th chapter which is just gone, 7th chapter which is just beginning. That everything should have connection, That is how the intellect can grasp. Why should the 7th chapter come after the 6th chapter? There must be a reason. Because this is Shruti, and this is a teaching tradition, there must be a reason why one thing follows the other. So how the 6th chapter builds the ground for the 7th chapter. Different kind of sangatis are there, And so hetu mad bhavaha, that the 6th chapter becomes the hetu, the reason, 7th chapter becomes the hetu mat, the one possessing the reason, the karya-karana sambandha. Svak sambandham vaktu kamaha shashthe vrittam, what has gone by in the 6th chapter, kirtayati. Bhashyakara states, or reiterates what has gone by in the 6th chapter. Abhinava Narayananandra Saraswati gives a long introduction. पूर्वोत्तर षष्ठाध्याय आचार्यवान वेद अथ संपत्सेति आचार्योपदिष्ट वाक्यजन्य ज्ञानात् सत् संपत्ति उक्ता. पूर्वोत्तर षष्ठाध्याय, early in the 6th chapter, Sat Sampatti Ukta, moksha, or the liberation of the nature of becoming one with Sat, identifying with the Sat. How does that happen? Vakya Janya Jnanat. So that oneness with Sat happens by knowledge. Knowledge simply reveals what is, meaning that already one is Sat or Brahman. But it is ignorance that is creating an apparent distance between myself and Brahman. So knowledge removes that Brahma or the delusion of the distance between myself and Brahman, that I am not Brahman. So Jnanat Sat Sampatti. By knowledge, it is becoming one with Sat, meaning it is Praptasya Praptihi, attainment of what is already attained, namely myself, which is Sat or Brahman. Vakya Janya Jnanat. But the knowledge that is generated by Vakya, Mahavakya, Tattvamasi. So Akhandartha Bodhakam Vakyam, Mahavakyam. that which bodhakam, that which is akhandartha. The non-separatedness, non-duality between the tat and tvam, between jiva and Ishvara, that vakya is called Mahavakyam. So Vakya Janya Jnana. So not just any Vakya but Mahavakya, which reveals the identity between Jiva and Brahma. And that too Acharyopadishta. That unfoldment of the Mahavakya should necessarily come from an Acharya who is capable of removing the obstacles to the knowledge. Abhavana, samshaya bhavana, viparita bhavana, these obstacles to the knowledge, the Acharya is the one who is capable of removing these obstacles. This is what was said in the 6th chapter in the statement Acharyavan Purusho Veda. A person or an aspirant who is Acharya comes to know, comes to acquire knowledge. Atha sampatshe. Then when all obstacles are removed to that knowledge or abundance in knowledge, the last obstacle being the prarabdha karma, which continues the existence of this body, when that also is over exhausted, sampatshe becomes one with Sat. So this was said. Nacha sadatmanah sukharupatvam vina tasyaha purushatvam. The point is, why would I want to become one with Sat? So a human being is not interested in Sat or Brahman or Ishvara or anything, he is interested in happiness. So a human being's primary pursuit is the pursuit of happiness. Sadatmana sukharupatvam vina. That Sat which is Atma, unless that Sat is Sukha of the nature of happiness, na purushartattvamiti. So, na tasyaha purushartatvam. So that Sat Sampatti, tasyaha, that some Sat Sampatti means becoming one with Sat, would not be Purushartha, would not be the goal that is sought after by the human beings. Purushahi arthyate, so that is sought by all human beings. So human beings are searching for happiness, lasting happiness. So human being wants to be one with that lasting happiness. The limitless happiness is what one wants to become identified with, one with, wants to abide in that. So abidance in Sat would become my goal, provided that Sat is of the nature of Ananda. Sadatmanah sukharupatvam vina. So unless Sadatma, such which is Atma, was also of the nature of Sukha or happiness or Ananda. Thus na tasya purushattatvam, that Sat sampatte, that become one with Sat would not be the goal of the human beings. Tadartham sadatmanah sukharupatvam vaktum saptamadhyaya arabdha. Therefore the Tikakara says that the 7th chapter is commenced also to say that Sat, which is Atma, also is Ananda Swarupa, Sukha Rupa, the nature of happiness. Tacha Vakshate, that also will be stated here. So how do you say that this chapter is dedicated to or devoted to revealing Sat or Atma as Sukha? Because it says Sukham tveva vijijñāsitavyam. Will say, Sayyid Sanat Kumara will say to Sayyid Narada that Sukham tveva vijijñāsitavyam. One should seek to know Sukham or happiness. So vijijñāsitavyam, that which deserves to be investigated into, to be known. So that which deserves to be known or which has to be known. So jñātavyam, jigñāsitavyam. What is it that should be known in our life? Sukham. And what's the answer? Yo vaibhuma tat sukhamiti. This chapter will say that which is bhuma is sukham, is Ananda, is happiness, is fullness. So that is one thing. Kincha Atmanah Sukharupatvepi. It is not enough that Atma is of the nature of Sukha or happiness. Even if Atma is of the nature of happiness, so what? Ajnana Pratibandhe na tasya Purusharthattvamiti. So Atma would not become Purushartha, the end that is sought after by the human beings, as long as Atma is covered by, veiled by ignorance. So Atma becomes something to be sought after only when there is no obstacle to that. Therefore, the nivrityapi vaktavya. That ignorance, avaranam, is the pratibandhaka, the obstacle to the manifestation of Atma, which is of the nature of happiness. So asti bhati priyam. The asti of the Atma becomes manifest anyway. That I am is known to me. Bhati, that I am, I shine, is also known to me. So interestingly enough, the asti bhati, that the self is not obstructed by ignorance. The sukham, that of ananda, that is what is obstructed by ignorance. So ajnana pratibandhe, ajnana ignorance, pratibandha becomes obstacle to the manifestation of ananda. The nivritti api vaktavya, therefore nivritti, the removal or elimination of ignorance also has to be stated. Tadartham cha. And then nivritti vaktavya, tadartham cha, what does it mean? What is meant by the elimination of ignorance? So both of these will be stated. Tadve vakshati. So this too also will be stated by this particular chapter. Tarati shokam atmavita. So atmavit shokam tarati. The knower of the self crosses the grief or ignorance. So shokam here stands for ignorance. Grief, the ignorance is the cause of grief. If some other reason was there for the grief, then that is what would be removed. But ajnanam, ignorance alone, is the cause of the grief. So when this Upanishad says tarati shokam, it means that he crosses over ignorance. How? Tamasah param darshayati. So sage Sanat Kumara darshayati shows tamasah param, the other end of the tamas. So crossing the tamas or darkness or ignorance is what Sanat Kumar enables sage Narada to do. And so, therefore, nivritti, the elimination of ignorance, and what it means, or what the result is, shokam tarati, one crosses over the grief. Then acharyavan purusho veda. So one who is the acharya comes to acquire the knowledge. Kincha acharyavatvam cha. How do you become acharyavan? Acharyas are there. How do you become acharyavan? So how do you become possessed of an acharya? Merely presence of acharya does not make you possessed of acharya. You can very well be in the presence of acharya but may not become possessed of acharya. Therefore, acharya sadananantaram iti. Only when you approach the acharya in a proper manner, that the relationship between you and the acharya gets established. That you discover in that person an acharya, discover in yourself an aspirant, a desire, a mumuksha, a jignasa. So only when that relationship takes place, that is when you become acharyavan, become possessed of acharya. So how does that relation take place? What does the relationship involve? Shraddha, bhakti. So the faith, devotion on the part of the student, and the happiness, the joy and the compassion on the part of the teacher. So when these two things are aroused or invoked, that is when that relationship takes place. Then only the aspirant becomes Acharyavan, the one who is possessed of Acharya. So, tadanantaramiri tad upasana prakaropi vaktavya. Only after approaching properly the Acharya, that will become Acharyavan. Therefore, tad upasadana prakara. Therefore, the method of approaching a teacher also must be stated. So, all of this, the sixth chapter did not have the occasion to say all of these things which are required to complete the whole subject matter. Tadapyatra drishyate. So that also we see here, Adhihi Bhagavo iti upasasada iti. How sage Narada approached Sanat Kumara upasasada, properly approached. With this mantra or statement, Adhihi Bhagavaha, O revered sir, please teach me. Then, Tataha. So just because you are possessed of Acharya does not mean that knowledge takes place. Something has to happen. Tataha jnana praptau shravanadi sadhanani api vaktavyani. Having approached a teacher, jnana sadhanani, atma var drashtavya, the atma must be known. Shrutavya, mantavya, niridhyasitavya. So shravanam, mananam, niridhyasanam should also take place after approaching the Acharya. Tani apyatra drishyante. Even though there is no clear description of Shravanam, Manam, etc., but we can see in the way the Shruti reports a dialogue between sage Sanat Kumara and sage Narada. In that also we see how Shravanam, Mananam, etc. are also involved. So, Satyantu eva vijignyasadavyamiti arabhya matisteva vijignyasitavya ityadi. Satyantu eva vijignyasitavyam. One should seek to know Satyam, which is known by Mati, by Mananam. So, Matistva vijignyasitavya. So, one should know Satyam by Shravanam, by Mananam. Ityadi etat sarvam vaktum saptamadhyayarambha krutah. So the seventh chapter is commenced to say all of this. So how beautifully the Tikakara has summarized and connected with the sixth chapter. So whatever the teaching of sixth chapter left unsaid, which should be said, all of that is found in the seventh chapter. Tatra namadi pranant tattvopadeshasya prayojanam aha. Says Paramatma, but it's Paramartha. So Paramatha Tattvopadesh or Paramatma Tattvopadesh, I guess. So seems to a different reading. So what is the prayojana? What's the purpose? For Tattvopadeshasya namadi prananda. So we'll see how the teaching proceeds from nama, subtler and subtler, to vak, to manaha, sankalpaha, chittam, dhyanam, vijnanam, balam, annam, apaha, tejaha, akashaha, smaraha, asha, pranaha. So there is a sequence. So step by step, the teacher leads the student from the grossest to the subtle and subtler and the subtlest. Okay, prana is not the subtlest, but that forms the ground for the unfoldment of the nature of the self. So namadi prananta tattvopadeshasya. What is the prayojanam? What is the purpose of that upadesha? where the teacher leads the student from the nama all the way up to prana. So then Bhashyakara says, Paramartha Tattvopadesha Pradhana Paraha Shashtodhyaya Sadatmaikatva Nirnay Parataya Eva Upayuktaha. Shashtodhyaya, the sixth chapter, is Upayuktaha, was basically dedicated to, concerned with Sadatmaikatva Nirnaya Parataya. So Parata means devotion, was devoted to, committed to, concerned with Sadatma Ekatva Nirnaya, with Nirnaya, ascertainment of Ekatva, the identity between Sat and Atma. So the thrust of the sixth chapter was to determine the identity between Sat and Atma, that Atma, the self, is Sat and Sat is the self. Which is what is Sat? Paramartha Tattvopadesha Pradhana Paraha. Sat is the Paramartha Tattvam, the Pratibhasikam Tattvam, Vyavaharikam Tattvam, Paramarthika Tattvam. That alone is called Tattvam, which is Paramarthikam anyway. What is Paramarthikam? Abhaditam, Satyam, which cannot be negated, which is changeless in all the three periods of time. Aparichannam, Desha, Kala, Vastu Paricheda Shunyam, which is free from the limitation of space, time and the object, which is ever the same in the past, present and future, which is changeless, which is abhaditam, non-negatable, which ever is, which ever shines, which is ever complete, which is here and now and everything. That's Paramartha Tattva. That there is a Tattvam like that. That's most important. When they say God, this is what Vedanta means by the word God. That which ever is, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, which is Satyam, truth, non-negatable, nature of Jnanam, consciousness, self-revealing, Anantam, infinite, limitless, non-dual. So that there is a tattva like this. That's one thing. And then, so that's how the tattva should be known. Then should be known as what? Should be known as one's own self. So first of all, what we call the Paroksha Jnana, that Brahma is. Then Aparoksha Jnanam, Brahma I am. So that's most important. Not only that there is God, which is all right. If God is there, is in heaven, someplace, however great God may be, what does it matter to me? He is my very self. So that is the most important contribution, if you want to call it contribution, that Upanishads make, is revealing the identity between the self and Ishvara, that there is no separation at all. That I am Ishvara or Brahman here and now. Aham Brahma Asmi. I am Brahman right now. As I am without any change, I am Brahman, I am limitless. This is what Upanishads reveal. So Paramartha, that is the Upanishads. Basically, Upanishads address themselves in revealing and unfolding the nature of Paramartha Tattva, the Tattvam which is Paramarthikam, absolute. Absolute means free from all relativities. Not that Tattva is because of some reason. That is what it is. Everything else is because, but that which is not because. So part is because place. Similarly, Jagat is because Ishvara, Brahman is. So whatever is because Brahman is. Yad vacha anabhidam yena vagabhyudyate. That these people speak because Brahman is. Shrotrasya shrotram, they hear because Brahman is. Vacho havacha, they speak because Brahman is. So whatever is because Brahman is. Yadaditya gatam teja, that sun shines, moon shines, fire shines because Brahman is. So, why is Brahman? Because it is. So, to be Sat is the nature. Everything else derives its Satta and Sfurti from Brahman. But that which in itself is of the nature of Satta and Sfurti, which does not depend upon anything else to be or to shine. That there is truth like that. And that is what you are. So, 6th chapter was primarily devoted to, committed to, concerned with revealing the nature of absolute reality as Sat, as Jagat Karanam, as Ekam, Advitiyam, one, non-dual, and Sadatmatva, and that Sat is Atma, the very self. Sat Satyam, Satma, Tattvamasi. Alright. Then says Anandagiri, Uttamadikaranam prati abadit tattvodhanam pradhanam so paramartha tattvopadesha pradhana paraha. So what is parama prati abadit tattvodhanam pradhanam? So you can say the 6th chapter address itself to Uttamadikari, the most exalted aspirant of the Adhikari. Towards him, Abad Tattvavodhanam Pradhanam. So, to the Uttamadhikari, you don't waste your time and don't go into any other details. Uttamadhikari must be given what he needs and deserves, and therefore simply Tattvabodha. So, Paramarthik Tattvopadesha. That's all. So then no upasana is stated, no karma is stated. So Shvetakeda looked upon as Uttamadhikari. Shvetakeda represents Uttamadhikari. Tatparaha atidha adhyaya paramathatva upadesha pradhana paraha. There were other things also. So pradhanam, the primary or the principal subject matter of the 6th chapter was the unfoldment of the nature of the absolute reality. In that process also, the teacher talked about various other things. How the creation took place, how it's the upadana karanam, by knowing one you know everything, etc., etc. Many things were stated. But the primary concern that the Upanishad had was to reveal the nature of the absolute reality to the one who can understand that. That is Uttamadhikari. Then sadatmaikatva sahasatah brahmana pratyang nischaya paratvene vyakhyatah. So not only the Paramadik Satta was stated, but then Satah Brahmana, the Sat which is Brahma, pratyang nischaya paratvena. The Sat which is Brahman is Pratyagatma, is the inmost self, is myself. That nischaya is important. There were not once, 9 times it was stated, but nischaya is important. Taddasya vijajñāviti. Until that nischaya or until that ascertainment took place in Shvetaketu, the teacher kept on unfolding. So pratyang nischaya paratvena. It is not enough that there is Sat or Sat is known, must be known as one's own self. Vyakhyatah. This is how the 6th chapter has been. That's the subject matter of 6th chapter. So Upayukta Vyakhyata, I guess that seems to be the explanation. That's how it has been explained, or that's what is the subject matter. Adhyayantara bhumikam arachayati. So this is called the Vrittam Vritta Kirtanam. This first sentence of Bhashyakara is reiteration of what has gone by in the 6th chapter. With reference to that, the 7th chapter will be introduced. So, Adhyayantara Bhumikam Arachayati. So, in the background of what has been taught in the 6th chapter, we should understand the 7th chapter. For that, the Bhumika. The very background is now Bhashyakara creates a background to say what actually is the connection between the 6th chapter and the 7th chapter. Na satah iti. Going to the other tika in the line 28. Ayam artha, so explaining Bhashyakara's vakya. Shashte prapathake tat padartha shodhana purvakam tasya pratyek rupatvam uktam. So in the 6th chapter, primarily subject matter was tat padartha. The tvam padartha also was stated. By describing the Jagara, Swapna, Sushupti, the 3 stages of a Jivatma, and Pranabandhanami Somya Manaha, saying that Mana of the Jivatma, Prana means Brahman. So Brahman is the true nature of Jivatma. Also by then Swapetiti, by all those things also, the Swam Apito Bhavati, one reaches oneself, because one with one's own self. In all of that, the nature of Tvam also was described. But still, Tat Padartha, knowing one knows everything. So primarily, 6th chapter presented Sat or Brahma as the Ekam Advityam Upadana Karanam and Nimitta Karanam. Shashte Prapathake Tat Padartha Shodhana Purvakam Tasya Pratyek Rupatvam Uktam Tattvamasi. That tat padartha or sat is, so pratyek rupatvam is the nature of pratyegatma, the indwelling in the inmost self. How? Sa atma tattvamasi iti. In the statement, hey, Shvetakadu, that sat is atma of the whole universe, and that's what you are. Nacha tvam padartha shodhana bhave tasya satah pratyek rupatvam jnatum shakyam. But still, not enough time was spent with tat tvam padartha. So, tvam padartha shodhanam. Beginning from where you are, namely a jivatma, a karta, bhokta, that's what you are. Beginning from there to what you really are, namely Brahman, the teacher has to lead you. Just as in the Taittiriya Upanishad, it is the Tvam Padartha Pradhanam. Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, Brahma Pucham Pratishtha. So, Tvam Padartha Shodhanam. Shodhanam means here the purification of Tvam Padartha, of the meaning of the word Tvam, which is a self. So, from the self, removing what is not self by the Atma, Anatma, Viveka, but the discrimination between the self and the non-self. The true nature of self has to be unfolded. The Tvam Padartha Shodhana Bhave. So unless Tvam Padartha Shodhanam, unless the inquiry into the nature of, true nature of Tvam or Atma is carried out, in absence of that, Tasya Satah Pratyek Rupatvam Jnatum Shakyam. Na. Until then, that Sat is the nature of Atma. The Sat is Jagat Karanam Ekameva Dvitiyam. But that Sat is self. Jnatum na Shakyam. It is not possible to comprehend that Sat, Jagat Karanam, the limitless I am. Kartrutvaadimatah tasya tad viparita sadatmatva anupatte. Because my notion about myself is I am a karta, bhokta. So unless my notions are addressed, the kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam, how it is mithya. Nayam hanti na hanyate, yena manti hantaram, yaschenam manyate hatam, bhautavana vijanita, yena veti hantaram. So one who takes himself hanta, karta, hatam, bhokta. Bhautavana vijanita. So Bhagavad Gita is Tvam Pada Pradhana, basically. The first 6 chapters are Tvam Pada Pradhanam. So unless the true meaning of the word Tvam is also understood by the Viveka discrimination between the self and the non-self, because there is aviveka or non-discrimination, there is a habitual identification with anatma. Therefore, Shvetaketu should be made to see that what you take yourself to be today is a result of the identification with what you are not. And therefore, revealing what, so unfolding what you are, that's how the Tvam-pada Shodhanam should take place. Then Shvetaketa then can see that yes, that Sat is myself. Tad viparita sadatmatva anupattehe. As long as I continue to take myself to be karta or bhokta, so long there is a contradiction between Sat and myself. Sat is nirvishesham, akartru, abhoktru, limitless, and I am limited, karta, bhokta. So even if I am told that you are Brahman, you are Sat, it is difficult for me to comprehend that the meaning of the statement as long as I entertain these notions about myself. So what is anatma? So this upadhi. Upadhi means a limiting adjunct. So on account of the identification with the upadhi, my body-mind sense complex, because of that the notion of kartrutva, bhoktrutva are there. Therefore I must be told how that I am not. So kartrutva, bhoktrutva all belongs to the upadhi. Therefore namadibhya pranantebhya uttarotter bhuyastvena vidyamanebhya. So beginning from gross body is settled, so Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya. So that's how the Prakriya was adopted in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Here so many steps are there. Beginning from Nama, Devadatta, I am so and so. Beginning from there to Pranantebhya, all the way to Prana, with which my identification continues. Uttarottara bhuyastvena vidyamanebhya. When each succeeding one is known to be superior to the preceding one or subtler than the preceding one, so Nama, then comes Vak. That Vak is subtler and superior to Nama. And then there is Manaha, the mind is subtler and superior to the Vak, in this way. Bhuyastvena vidyamanebhya. So when I know that I take myself with Nama, but greater than Nama, subtler than Nama, the name is Vak or the speech. So your identification shifts. Subtler than speech is the Manaha, mind. So that's how, when this is how it is known, that each succeeding layer is subtler than and superior to the preceding layer of my personality. Tebhya pratyagatma vivikta pradarshaniya. That pratyagatma, the indwelling self, is vivikta. It should be separated from this by viveka. So vivikta pradarshaniya. So pratyagatma, the self, right now it is lumped together with anatma. Anatma consists of all the layers from Nama all the way up to Prana. So, therefore, Shvetaketu or the aspirant should be made to see that, hey, this is anatma, that's not you. So, vivikta, pradarshaniya, pratyagatma must be shown as different from this, distinct from this. Iti tadartham tesham nirdesha iti. It is for this reason that the teacher begins from Nama, goes all the way to Prana, to make sage Narada understand that this is Anatma, and therefore you have the identification with them. So Paramartha or Paramatma Tattvopadesha Pradhana iti nadu Pratyagatma Tattvopadesha Paraityartha. So sixth chapter primarily concerned itself with revealing or unfolding nature of Paramatma Tattva or Paramartha Tattva. Natu Pratyagatma Tattvopadesha Paraha. There was Upadesha. There also was a discussion of the nature of the Pratyagatma, or one's indwelling self, but that was not the primary discussion. Also was mentioned, but primarily the focus was placed on, the attention was focused on the unfoldment of the Tatpada. So therefore, Sadatmaikatva Nirnaya Parataya Eva Upayuktaha. So, recognizing Sat as Pratyagatma, and so ascertainment of that was primarily what the sixth chapter was devoted to. That Evakara Vyavara. Then what else was not stated there? So, the sixth chapter concerned itself with revealing Sat as the Atma. What is that they did not do? So, na satah iti, so Bhashyakara says. So, Anandagiri says that this next sentence gives a bhumika or ground for the seventh chapter. This Tikakara says that it tells you what the sixth chapter did not do and what the seventh chapter does. So there is a different approach. The two Tikakaras have a somewhat different approach. Na satah. So Bhashyakara says, Na satah arvak vikara lakshanane तत्वानि निर्दिष्टानि यतः तानि नामादीनि प्राणान्तानि क्रमेण निर्दिश्य तद्वारेणापि भूमाख्यं निर्तिशयं तत्त्वं निर्देक्ष्यामि इति शाखाचंद्रवत शाखाचंद्रदर्शनवत इति इमं सप्तमं प्रपाठकम् आरभते. So it in this for this reason Saptamam Prapathakam Arabhate, the seventh Prapathaka, the seventh chapter is commenced. So that's why Anandagiri says that this statement gives you the bhumika of the seventh chapter. Or also it tells you what the seventh chapter does. There was not any sixth chapter. Going to Anandagiri, Madhyam Adhikaranam Prati Paramparaya Brahmatvatvam Upadeshtum. Sixth chapter was primarily for the Uttamadhikari. So not what it did not do and what this one does. No. Sixth chapter also was complete in itself. That's how Anandagiri looks at it. And seventh chapter also is complete in itself. Except that these two chapters address themselves to different adhikaris. The sixth chapter for the Uttamadhikari, seventh chapter for the Madhyamadhikari. That is Anandagiri's reading. So, Madhyamadhikaran Prati Paramparaya. So, Uttamadhikari, you can straight away tell him that you are Brahman. But Madhyamadhikari is a Brahman, he won't understand. He is not evolved enough to comprehend that. So, Paramparaya, he should be told stage by stage. Brahmatmatvam Upadeshtum. So Madhyamadhikari requires more time and he is slower. Therefore his recognition also is slower. Therefore stage by stage, Paramparaya. Brahmatvam Upadeshtum. So leading him to recognizing Brahman as the Atma. Saptama Prapathaka Pravrutti. So that's the purpose of the seventh chapter here. Or going to the other tika, Chitah Pratyagatmana Vikarah Kartrutvadehi. This Chitah or Satah, because na Satah Arvag Vikara Lakshana. But anyway, so this Satah is also Chitah of the Chit. Pratyagatma, because Pratyagatma is known to be consciousness. One thing I know is that I am a conscious being. So Pratyagatmana Chitah Vikara Kartrutvadehi. So I am a Karta, I am a Bhokta, Sukhi Dukkhya or Vikara, all of the modifications of the self, which is Sat or consciousness. Meaning that consciousness itself presents itself as a Karta. So when I say I am a doer or I am an enjoyer, that I is Chit or consciousness. So Karta, Bhokta, Sukhi, Dukhi, all of these are, can be said to be Vikara, modification of Sat or Chit of the self. Yehi Tani Chit Vikarani Pratyagatma Upadaya. Because of which those Vikarani, this Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam, etc., those Vikara or modification of Sat, they are the Upadaya, they are the limiting adjuncts of the self. Ataheva tal lakshakani ityartha. Therefore, always beginning from Nama, although Prana, the Upadis, the limiting adjuncts of the Sat, meaning or Atma, so Atma is identified with them. So the Lakshakani. So that way, when I say that I am Devadatta, that's my Nama. The Devadatta becomes a Lakshaka, because pointer to the true nature of I. You are not Devadatta, but Devadatta Nama leads to the true nature of self, so that way Lakshakani. So they are the pointers to the true nature of self. Tani na nirdishtani iti. So Sadatmaikatva nirnaparataya eva upayukta. But this is on, so na satah arvag vikar lakshanani tattvani nirdishtani. Bhashyaka says that this tattva or these entities which are below or inferior to Sat or Atma, which are the modifications of Atma, na nirdishtani, they were not pointed out. So what does it mean? Tadvara tadvivekene Atma na nirdishta ityartha. So why should you point out these vikaras or the upadhi of the Atma? Because Atma should also be pointed out by the viveka. So not only that you are Sat, but you are not the body. You are not the mind. So that also should be stated. So what you are, of course, is what the 6th chapter stated. But what you are not also you should know. Then only that identity can become clear. When I am told that you are Brahman, but I continue to take myself to the body or the mind and Karta, Bhokta, then that identity cannot be settled in my mind. So I should also be told what I am not, and then told what I am. Both, so what I am is told in the 6th chapter. What I am not also needs to be stated. Stutadvara vivekena atma na nirdishta iti. So by stating what the upadhis are, then tadvara, through these upadhis, you must be told you are not that. Mano buddhi ahankara chittani naham. Nacha shrotra jikhve, nacha ghrana netre, nacha vyomhumir, na tejo na vayu. So because I take those things to be myself, that is why you should be told that I am not them. Idam shariram kaundya kshetramiti abhidhiyate. Because this sharira I take to be myself. Therefore I need to be told that sharira is kshetram, is drishyam, is anatma, etadyo veti, one who knows that sharira, right? So drashta is different from the drishyam. So that way, by viveka, that also should be stated. So that was not done in the 6th chapter. So Shvetaka was told that you are Brahman, but he was not told what he is not. That also should be told, so that Shvetaketu can do, or in this case, say Narada can do the. To Bhashyakara it doesn't matter who is Shvetaketu. To him what matters subject matter. Akhyayika is a nimitta only. That this teaching is presented in a form, in a certain situation, by a given teacher to a given student is a nimitta. So Bhashyakara always connects from the subject matter to the subject matter. Because speaker is one, namely Shruti, and we are the listeners. Thus, so Shruti is the teacher and we are the students. In between, Shruti tells you different stories and things like that, but what is important is the Tattva Upadesha is important. So Vedanta is pramana with reference to the Tattva, and other things are incidental. The stories, etc., they also have a purpose to serve, to create some values and attitudes in us is also the purpose of the story, which also is an important thing to do, but primarily the Shastra does itself to revealing or unfolding the nature of truth. Therefore, yataha tani namadini pranantani kramena nidhi. So Shruti is thinking like this, that I told him that you are Sat or Brahma, but I did not tell him what you are not. So Shruti thinking. Therefore, ayataha tani namadini pranantani kramena nirdishya. Then Shruti says, this is what I will do now. That kramena nirdishya, step by step, I will tell him, beginning from nama all the way to prana, step by step, I will tell him what those inferior things are, what anatma is. Tad dvarenapi. So, by saying that you are Sat or Jagat Karanam, of course, the Shvetika, the student is told what he is. But by negating what is not also, that way also, bhumakyam nirtishaya tattvam nirdekshami. So by pointing out to the inferior things, the anatma, which is vikari, which is changing, which with the student is not, that way also I will tell him. First I will tell what is not, through that I will tell that you are Brahman or you are Bhuma. So tadvarnapeti says Tika Purvam Brahmopadibhuta Tejo Bannadi Dvara Sat Advitiyam Nirdishtam. So what was the Dvara earlier? So what was the means earlier? Brahmopadibhuta. So Tatpada Shodhanam was done. Brahmopadibhuta, that Upadi of the Brahman was the three elements, the Jagat. Tejo Bannadi Dvara. So these three elements, the fire, water and earth, were the Upadi of Brahman. So by that Viveka, so what Brahman is not, how Brahman is not the three elements, because what is Apagat Agnehe Agnitvam Vacharambanam Vikaranamazayam Trini Rupani Teva Satyam. So that's how the negation was done. So tadvara Sat Advitiyam Nirdishtam. And then of course it was said how, what is it? Moolam Anvicha. So Annena Shungena Tad Moolam Anvicha. Anna is the effect. What's the apaha? The water is the cause, and that's the effect. Teja is the cause, that's the effect. Sat is the cause. That's how Sat Advitiyam Nirdishtam. Sat which is Advitiyam. That Annam, the Teja, Abannam do not stand apart from Sat. Because Sat is Upadana Karanam. So Sat is a very material cause. And effect does not stand apart from material cause. That's why knowing the material cause, you as well know the effect. So what is the effect? Which effect itself stands as the Upadi, the three elements. So through that Tadvara. Sat Advitiyam Nirdishtam. That Sat is Advitiyam, one non-dual. That's what was stated. Idanintu Pratyek Upadibhuta Namadidvara Atma Nirdishyate. Here the focus is on Atma or Tvam-pada. How Pratyek Upadi Bhuta Namadidvara. There Tejo Bannam was the Brahma Upadi. Here the Pratyek Upadi, Upadi of Pratyegatma, the limiting agency of the self. What? Nama, all the way to Prana. So Tadvara Atma Nirdishyate. Here primarily what is pointed out is Atma or the Self. Tatasya tatra tat padartha tvam padartha paritam shodhitah yantu tvam padartha tat padartha pariyantam shodhyate iti bhavaha. So there the teacher started with tat and showed how tat is tvam. Here the teacher will start with tvam and show how tvam is tat. So tat padartha tvam padartha pariyantam shodhitah. Begin with tat, sat. Shodhita was shown how that Sat is Tvam or you. He starts with you, Nama, and then show how you are Tat or Brahman. Iti Bhava. So that's what is the subject matter, the style or the teaching methodology of the 7th chapter. So Bhashyakara says, Iti Shaka Chandravat Darshanavata. Shaka Chandra Darshanavad. From grosser to the subtle. From the tree to the branch. Branch to tip of the branch. From there to the moon. Because there is no connection between the branch and the moon. So there is no connection between the snake and the rope. So that way, Shaka Chandra Nyaya is what? Where the moon transcends the tree or Shaka. Because Sat transcends the Upadhi or Atma transcends. It's not that it's the same degree of reality. See, even though we say that Atma is subtler and subtlest, it is not subtlest in the sense that the Upadhi is subtle and subtlest. The subtleness of the Atma is of a different degree. It transcends the Upadhi. So Chandrama, that moon, transcends the branch. There is no connection between the moon and the branch. Branch is only what? Lakshaka. Branch only is in nimitta. It happens to be there to point out to the moon. So also the Upadhi happens to be there to point out to the true nature of the self. So Nirdekshami Shaka Chandra Darshanavata. So says Tikakara, Shaka Chandra Darshanavad Nirdekshami iti. That's Anvaya. I have a footnote which says Nirdekshami iti. This iti shabda adhikaha. Nirdekshami. Because there is already Shaka Chandra Darshanavad iti. Another iti is there. So Shaka Chandra Darshanavad Nirdekshami iti. With that in mind, Imam Saptamam Prapatakam Arabhate. The Shruti begins, commences the 7th chapter, keeping this in mind. The Shaka Chandra Darshanavat. How the father makes the little son see that moon, which is like a fine line in the sky, which the child cannot see. And how it is led to see that moon. So also this chapter leads the aspirant to see the moon, which is his own self. Says Annagiri in the previous page, Nanu atrapi brahmatmatvam eva upadeshtam ishtam chet. Atrapi in the 7th chapter also, brahmatmatvam eva. The Brahma is Atma. So brahmatmatvam. And Brahma is the very self, that is the Upadeshtam, Ishtam Ched. If this is what the Shruti desires to communicate, that Brahman is Atma, then why does not Shruti straight away takes up that business? Why do you go round and round, So say that, hey, you are Brahman. Kimiti tari namadini tattvani nirdishyante. Why does the teacher start with nama and vak and manaha and sankalpana? Why does he go that way? Tatraha. So there also Bhashyakara should state anirdishteshu iti. So Bhashyakara says, next page, अनिर्दिष्टेषु हि सतः अर्वाक् तत्वेषु सन्मात्रे च निर्दिष्टे अन्यदपि अविज्ञातं स्यात् इति आशंका कस्यचित् स्यात् सा मा भूत् इति वा ताने निर्दिदिक्षते. Or this can be the other explanation of the 7th chapter, what it does. Anirdishteshu hi satah arvak tattveshu. If all this tattva or all these entities, satah arvak, were inferior to sat, grosser than the sat, namely nama, all the way to prana, if these were not pointed out, sanmatrecha nirdishte, and only sat is pointed out. That you are sat, that is what is told. Anyadapi avijñātam syāt. Then sat is known, but all these things here may remain unknown. So one may think that beginning from nama all the way to prana, all those entities will remain unknown even when sat is known if they are not specifically pointed out. Iti ashanka kasajit syat. Someone may have, should not have. But someone can have the ashanka, the doubt, that Sat is known, but how about all other entities? So they are still unknown, so they are not known. Samabhut, that ashanka should not remain in somebody's mind. But if some doubt remains, then the knowledge cannot settle down. Therefore, the teacher also should remove the doubt. So this doubt can remain, that I know that I am Sat, and I know Sat, but how about all these other things, the nama, etc. So, itiva tani nirdidikshate. So either because nama up to prana is anatma, and by viveka or discrimination that you are not, all this anatma beginning from nama all the way to prana is the purpose of the 7th chapter, or because eka vijnanena sarva vijnanam. See, the 6th chapter's pratigna was that you know everything by knowing one. Then somebody may say, I know Sat, all right, but this nama, etc., still I do not know because nobody has told me that is also Sat. Therefore, so that may be another reason why all of this nama to prana and so many, all the entities are introduced here, talked about here. So tani nirdidikshati, they are indicated here. Or if you go to the other tika, yadyapi, so kasyajit sat. Somebody can have doubt. It is not possible to have that doubt. Somebody could have that doubt. Yadyapi sarvasyapi brahma vikaratvam. By saying that vacharambram vikaro namadem mrittika ityeva satyam, that upadana karanam is satyam. Everything else is vikara or the modification of that material cause. So the whole universe was pointed out as, Jagat was pointed out as vikara, Brahma vikara, modification of Brahma. Praticha Brahma abhedasya ukta. So by saying that tat teja asrujata bahusyam prajayayati, may I become many, may I be born, and it was born as Sat, as teja, then apaha and annam. So what is teja, apaha, annam? It was then pointed out that look, Shvetaketu, the fire that you see here, the red color in the fire is of the element fire, and white color is the element water, and the black color is the element earth. And therefore, fire is no more fire, only 3 elements, and that also is nothing but Sat. So all these, in fact, the teacher took time to show how fire, and then sun, and then moon, and then lightning, all of these are nothing but Sat. So all of that was stated. Then praticha Brahma abhedasya ukta tattvamasi, you are that Sat or you are Brahma. So that's abheda, the non-duality between Atma and Brahma also was stated. Idi yasya katsadyapi avijñāta shanka na bhavati eva. That in any case, nobody should have any doubt that I have known Sat and I have still not known something. Therefore, Brahman was shown as having entered this body as a Jivatma. So, the oneness, how Jivatma is known by knowing Brahman is that Jivatma alone is Brahman alone is entered as Jivatma. How Jagat is known? That Brahman is Jagat Karana, Upadana Karana of the Jagat. So, yasya kasyavi avijñāta shanka na bhavati eva. So really the teacher has pointed out, covered everything. So the doubt that having known Sat, something still remains unknown should not occur. Tathapi, even then, namadibhya pratyagatmi prithakritya ashodhite tasya tadupadikasya kartritvadi viruddharmavattvena pratiyamanasya brahma abheda sambhavat. Already pointed out, even then. So if Nama, all the way to Prana, is not pointed out clearly as Sat being Atma, being different from everything other than Na, everything beginning from Nama to Prana, it is not specifically pointed out. Prithakritya ashodhite, they are not Atma, they are Anatma. And Pratyagatma is different from them. If this is not clearly stated, tasya tadupadikasya. So until this student comes to know that this Nama and then Vak and Manaha and Sankalpa etc. I am not, until then kartratvadi viruddharmatvena, until then he may continue to make himself to be a karta bhokta, which is dharma or attributes quite contrary to those of Brahman, which is akartru, abhoktru. So viruddharmatvena pratiyamanasya. So as long as that viveka is not done, then one still looks upon oneself as karta bhokta, as limited, which is quite contrary to Brahman. Therefore, Brahma abheda asambhavat. Therefore, in his mind, abheda, the oneness with Brahman will not be settled. Akaryatvacha. So by knowing one, you know everything, knowing Upadana Karanam, you know everything, the Karya. But Jivatma is not the Karya of Brahma, Akaryatvacha. Brahma Vijnanena Avijnanatva Shanka Syad. So it is possible that somebody may have the doubt that I know Brahman all right, but still there are things that remain unknown to me, like Nama, etc., like Pratyagatma. So Bhashyakar said, Sanmatreja nirdeshte anyadapi avijñātam syāt. What is anyad? Pratyagatma swarupam. So by knowing Brahman as Upadana Karanam, the Jagat is known, which is Karyam. But Jivatma not being the Brahma Karya, therefore somebody may think that the Atma is not known. So Bhashyaka gives us the alternate explanations of the seventh. Primary one is given, but others also are given by Athava. That's how it has begun. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.